All right, what is up and welcome back to another video. So, as you can see in this video, we're not going to be out and about on the streets of New York just because it is a bit rainy outside. And then also, I procrastinated on my video this week, so I didn't get any footage and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. Actually, not that I don't have any idea, but it was just poor planning on my part. And so I came up with a last minute idea, and then obviously I can't be running around. And also I took on a couple new clients this week, so I've just been super busy with like programming and getting them all set up, and so I had no time to really brainstorm a YouTube video and then go out there and get all footage. But also got a new phone, so I also wanted to make a video and still try to get it out on schedule-ish this past week. So here we are. So we're gonna do this video in my room, and I think it'd be perfect for this topic, this sit-down topic anyways, and I'll just overlay some footage as necessary. But yeah, in today's video, we're gonna be talking about the pros and cons, or at least my pros and cons that I have experienced and gathered as I have lived in the city for over a year now. So I moved here last November, last November, so November of 2023, and then I made 1 year in November of 2024, and then now it's February 2025. So was that like a year and three months or something like that? But I made a year and 1 month in this apartment here. So yeah, it's still a milestone nonetheless. I'll stay out at an Airbnb, not a permanent address or anything, so I technically wasn't a resident until I officially got an address here and then started paying taxes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, with that being said, I think it's a good, I think I've spent enough time here where I can form a pretty solid opinion. Like obviously I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm a New Yorker and like all that kind of stuff. I don't think I'll ever have the notoriety or the merit or the experience to actually say that. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the line if I decide to live here for that long. But for the time being, I can't declare that yet. But I can still formulate some opinions, and I do think, especially if you're interested in like the background or back end of personal training and all that kind of stuff and what that kind of looks like for me, then you'll enjoy my opinion. And also if maybe you've been looking at moving to New York or you're just somewhat interested about the New York lifestyle, then there we go. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the episode. So I have 5 pros that I've just kind of bullet pointed out on my notes here, and then I have 5 cons that I've sort of bullet pointed out as well. Got my CZ on deck. Just had some halal cart for dinner, so I am nice and full, ready to film this episode and sip on some CZ while I'm at it. Oh, by the way, CZ is Coke Zero for all you uncultured swine out there. But let's go ahead and dive in. So first thing I have here, Tier 1 city. So one of the main reasons why I wanted to move to New York, and I hadn't really known about this concept until I actually did some research and saw someone mention Tier 1 city, and so I decided to look more into it. And the idea is that there are a bunch of different tiers for cities around the world, and the tiers basically are according to population and economic activity. That's like basically the 2 components that they sort of go by. And so obviously Tier 1 cities are large cities with a huge metro area, huge metro population, also high GDP, high economic growth, activity, what have you. And so all these Tier 1 cities are, what you typically know like cities around the world. What are the first cities that come to mind around the world, right? New York City, you have London, you have Beijing, you have Shanghai, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, all the major cities around countries, right? That's like the first ones that you think of. I don't know if there's like a specific range or threshold. I just did like a quick Google search, but that's basically like Tier 1 cities, and then Tier 2, Tier 3, I think they go down to Tier 4 tiers or something. I don't know. I didn't look too much into it, but the idea is that there are multiple tiers, and New York City just being a Tier 1 city, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move here, because it just had a lot more opportunity. And especially when you follow the money, when you follow the people, that just sort of, the more people, the more money there is, obviously it's going to usually have a better quality of life. You're going to have access to more services, to more products, to more things. So that's definitely why one of the reasons I want to move here, and then also just kind of segueing into the first point I have here. So it's a high energy environment, and it's because of that. I don't think it's that by itself, but it's certainly one of the biggest contributing factors is that New York City is a tier 1 city, which lends itself to a high energy, fast paced environment. What is like typical stereotype you hear about New York, right? People are just walking around fast. People are just always on to the next thing, trying to get business done, and everyone's always in a rush. No one's taking their time, right? So that in itself, like that was one of the attractions for me because I just wanted a high energy, fast paced environment, and it's certainly I think West and East Coast have that different type of vibe, but then I also feel like New York by itself is also just another thing. It's like if you like to think about as the USA is the land of capitalism, then what is New York? Right, New York is like the capital of capitalism. So it's like capitalism at its very peak. So it's like obviously you come here, there's like so much money, people are hustling, people are grinding, people are trying to make money. So I think that by itself, and also down the also along the same lines of that is that everyone's here for a specific purpose and drive, which I certainly like. Like I feel like New York City attracts a certain type of person, and I didn't realize it until someone actually like said that. I always like thought of a way to articulate it, but I didn't quite actually understand it until someone was like, "Hey, actually, like I love New York City because of the people that it attracts and because of the character of the city." And I thought, I was like, wow, that is a really, really good way of articulating, because I feel like everyone knows the brand of New York City. Like, what is the brand of New York City? Like, what are the first things you think of? You think of Times Square, you think of all the bright screens and advertisements, you think of all the people running around, you think of money and wealth and all these big buildings, big shiny luxury buildings and all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, everyone knows like that's what you expect in New York City. No one comes here and is like, oh my god, I didn't expect the city to be so hard, and I didn't expect everyone to be so fast paced and hustling and grinding, right? It's like, no, you come to New York City, you know exactly what you're getting into. And so because there's that certain like level, like barrier of entry, because you know what you're getting into, just coming here, you're like, okay, I better pull myself up by the bootstraps, I better be prepared and actually be ready to adapt and acclimate to the city, because I know of all these things and all these expectations I need of myself, right? So that's definitely a huge pro if you're looking to like spice it up and you want to be in an environment where everyone else is also hustling and grinding. Everyone has their own thing going on. Like I've talked to so many people, like obviously a lot of people are just kind of chilling and coasting, they got their jobs and whatever, but there are also a lot of people who are like, they have their normal stuff, and then they're also trying to do this, they're also trying to build this. And so it's just cool just being in that environment of people who just want to further their careers, further their life, and they're just like focused on progress in so many different areas. So which is what I really like, because it inspires me to be like, I should keep pushing too. And it's also a nice way of like just being around like-minded people who want to grow and prosper and be out of their comfort zones. And so it's just nice to find people in that realm. And I'm a very big believer of you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And that very much applies, like, not just in your immediate circle, but also like what type of environment are you in, right? If you are in a city where, and this was me in Portland, like, if you're in a city where like everyone's just kind of sleepy and slow and like no one's really like hustling and grinding, it's just like, you can be the exception, but it's also that much harder because you feel like you're just that black sheep and you like don't fit in, and you don't have anyone else to relate to and all that. And especially just being in a environment where you can bounce ideas off of other people, or people will say some things and then you get inspired by that thing, and forces you out of your usual like thought process, and you're exposed to more people, more ways of thinking and all that. So I think that's definitely a huge benefit of just being in New York City. And then also along the lines of that, being exposed to so many people, you already know that New York City is full of people, just a lot of people. So with that being said, like just the endless amounts of network opportunities, and that's certainly a huge pro in that. And again, I heard this like through social media where like, so the guy was like, I think that everyone should, if given the opportunity, they should move to a tier 1 city, or they should move to New York City. Basically, New York City or any tier 1 city for that matter, just because of the sheer size and activity in tier 1 cities, you're going to be rubbing shoulders, you're going to be bumping into people of massive amounts of wealth or massive amounts of status. And that's not to say it's like wealth and status like the only things that matter in life, but also at the same time, again, you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And so if you are around this type of environment and you don't know who you're going to bump into, you don't know who you're going to meet, but just being able to having the opportunity to form these connections, like you never know like who will help you down the line or who you will help down the line as well. Yeah, it's just like having the opportunity, just getting access to that network is just so important. And this is something that I didn't realize when I was younger. Like people would be like, "Oh yeah, it's not about what you do; it's more about who you know." That kind of, like I kind of, I kind of agreed with that. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But I didn't really take any serious thought until like actually as I got into my older years, I was like, whoa, actually, it really matters like who you know. Like you could be a pretty like decent worker, you can be even a great worker, but if you don't know the right people, you're not going to come across like the right opportunities. And then also vice versa. I mean, you can be an idiot and you can know the right people and still get really good opportunities, but if you can have both, then like you're going to crush it. So yeah, just taking advantage of just being in an environment around people. And like personally for me, I don't like to brag about this kind of stuff or talk about it too much, but like just being here, simply like I 3x my business in terms of clientele and also income. And so yeah, it is just crazy to me that like I never saw like this amount of growth until like I moved here and I actually experienced it for myself. And yeah, and so I fully agree, like it's just opportunity. Like obviously you could say that I got lucky and all that, but obviously it's like I still put in work, and then also at the same time just being in an area of opportunity, maybe it forced myself to look at certain things differently, or it forced me to just be like try and work a bit and work a lot harder, just because of the sheer competitive nature and the hustle and environment of the city. Like maybe that could have been a factor, but also it's like success is as a result of so many combinations of different factors that you can't necessarily pinpoint to one thing. And then also I have like the capital of the capital of capitalism, like that lends itself to like, you're rubbing shoulders with like all these like high status people. And so obviously you're going to get more opportunity, and there's just more money flowing in these areas. So it's like you just have more opportunity to make a name and like find your market and find your niche and just find people in order to have these opportunities for yourself. So yeah, and then of course like this New York City is just a diverse city. I truly think that it is the world city, because I have met and seen so many types of people from all different types of background, from different countries, speaking so many different languages. And so that itself was such a crazy and awesome experience to be able to meet people from all over the world. And I truly believe like as a people, like diversity is what strengthens us, because diversity is more so you expose yourself to other points of views, to other cultures, to other people, and from itself you have these open discussions with these people, and then together, especially given that everyone else is open-minded, right, you can all come together and build on top of each other's successes, right? Obviously every single one of us from different backgrounds and different cultures and different experiences, like we all have our own view of success and failures. And so it kind of forces to like, if we come together, obviously there are going to be many things that you disagree on, but there are also going to be many things that you agree on. And then from there you can sort out the pros and cons, and you can build on top of each other, and then from there you can come up with the best solution, right? So I think that is what like truly strengthens us as people. And of course is like that can translate to business, that can translate to finding solutions for like public policy, and that can find the solutions for just all our human problems, right? Like it's just like how to get along and how to come up with solutions that benefit all of us. And the best way to do that is to have a bunch of different backgrounds come in and like, okay, this worked well for us, but this didn't work so well for us. So it's like, okay, how can we all come together and find a solution? So yeah, that's pretty much that for network. Obviously, network opportunities, you just have so many access to people. And then next bullet point here. So endless variety and things to do. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip of CZ here. But yeah, so because it's such a sheer, sizable city, that there's always something to do. Like, and then in combination with, it's a city that never sleeps. Certainly things have changed after COVID, but I feel like still, like you can go somewhere in like 4 a.m. and you're gonna find at least something open near you. So it truly is, at the end of the day, I do feel like it is still a 24-hour city. So it's just like there's just so many things to do, and because again it's like the land of opportunity, there's always people trying to come up with new things, you know, new ideas, new concepts in order to bring more people together, whether it's like social experiences or restaurants or bars or whatever have you. People are always just trying to come up with new stuff. And so there's always something to try, there's always something to do in the city. And I feel like because, again, it's a tier one mecca city of the world, that people, when they want to test launch a product, or when they want to test launch a service or an event or something, it's always New York City. So for example, I go to some, social like friend slash like dating events and stuff, and sometimes you have to download an app, and always it's like, if it's like a brand new app, usually New York, LA, like all these like tier one global big cities, like obviously they're gonna get first dibs because they have a lot of people, they can get a good sample size for stuff, and obviously referrals and word of mouth are huge in a well populated area, right? So yeah, it's like with this, you get access. You usually get first access to a lot of these new things, versus if you're in some town in the middle of like bumfuck nowhere, they're gonna be like, no, you're gonna wait for a while for this app. Like we got to make sure it's like tested and good first before we come to this small town that maybe is gonna add to maybe it's gonna add to the user base by like 500 people. No, it's like they're not gonna do that. So that's another pro. And then of course, yeah, tons of food options. So because of the sheer diversity, I've tried cuisine from so many parts of the world where I'm like, whoa, that's like I never thought that I would be able to experience this. So there's that. And then next bullet point here, so I have access to world class options. So yeah, again, with the opportunity and diversity, and because there's so much competition, like obviously, like if you suck in the city, like I'm sorry to say, you're probably not going to make it, or you're probably going to be like bottom barrel, and you're basically, your business, your product or service won't survive that long. And so I feel like because of that, you get access to like world class, like, so only really it's like only you have to be successful in order to actually make a brand and make a name out here. So you have to be, there's going to be a baseline level of like goodness, right? Like you can't be below like you can't be like super sucky and somehow like make a name for yourself in New York. And it's like, no, you have to, it filters out a bunch of crap. And so and as a result of that, it's like you will eventually find like the best of the best for things. So like I'm gonna think like cuisine, it's like, and there's also, it's like, it's because it's sort of like the mecca city or the capital of the world, like you have world-class events for like art and history and design, and just so many things I can't think of right now off the top of my head. But it's like literally, oh yeah, like fashion is really big here, like art is really big here, and it's like certainly like there's just so many people filtering in and out because they are the titans of the industry, and then they come here because a lot of other people also come here. And then obviously celebrities are in and out, a lot of celebrities are from New York too. So I just think that New York just has a pro of like just having all these world class events and options just like at literally like down the street or like in the next neighborhood, which is crazy to just think about. And then again, also tons of history. So like because it's one of the oldest cities in America, it's just so rich with history. Like it hasn't only been here for like 30 years, right? New York has been here for hundreds of years. So there's a lot of history ingrained into that. And I'm certainly someone who loves history. And certainly you can find older cities around the world, but in the US specifically, the country itself is only a few hundred years old. So with that being said, like our oldest cities are also only a few hundred years old, but also like just I love history. And so like I said, there's just a lot of history in the city because I'm living on the East Coast where a lot of these cities are older. So that's also a huge plus. Like I can go to museums and I can go to like, or downtown Manhattan, and then I can walk the same streets that people were walking like a few hundred years ago, and like a lot of the stuff is like still there, and you can take a glimpse into history. It's sort of like you're looking like into the past. You got like one foot in the past, one foot in the present, and it's just like a cool surreal feeling to be in. And then of course, like, you go to these museums, they kind of talk about like the history and like how it has sort of transitioned, and then a lot of stuff is like still the same as before, right? But then also like seeing how much like has changed over the years too, which is just a cool experience. And then last couple of points here so walkable city. So yeah, New York is a very walkable city, obviously, but it's also something that's not as prevalent in America as it is in other countries around the world. So truly, it's just living in a walkable city. It's just game changing, because then you have pretty much everything in like walking distance. Like, there's a pharmacy literally down the street. There's a restaurant literally down the street too. There's grocery stores. At least, like, the furthest is probably like 2 blocks away from me, and so it's just being in the walkable city. It's just built for the human scale. Like, you have everything you need, and you just don't have to like get in the car to like do everything. And so it just promotes more physical activity for one, and then also two, like, I can get stuff easier, and then also three, I feel it's just a different perspective and experience when you go and walk and do stuff, as opposed to like getting in a car and driving. Because getting in a car and driving, I feel like it's very much a mentally taxing thing, because you have to be very intentional about it. Like, I can't just like, oh, I'm just gonna go out for a drive. And it's like, no, I need to have a destination. I need to be mentally ready and prepared to get in a car and drive, right? Versus walking, it's like, I can just walk on the street, and I can just walk on and just like wander around, and I can have no destination. Driving is like, you kind of have to have a destination. Well, you can drive around the city and drive around the block a few times, but it doesn't feel the same, because one, I mean, you're operating a freaking heavy piece of heavy machinery, and you have to be conscious about it. You can't just like space out and wander. And again, too, like, you just have to be intentional about it. So it just hits different when you're in a walkable city. You can just go on a stroll and like see sights, and obviously, like, you can walk outside. I can see people, I can see buildings, I can see just like normal city sights. Whereas like, you drive in a car in like a suburb, or like just in the middle of nowhere, or you go to like the strip mall, and it's like, it honestly looks a bit boring. Like, you're driving, and then there's like not much to see. People aren't out and about walking. There's not much nature, obviously. It's just like a bunch of paved concrete, and again, there's just not that many sites. So, and then lastly, this ties in. So, robust public transportation. So again, I feel like having robust public transportation is one of the keys that allow New York to be the way that it is, because you have such a sheer amount of people who are able to get around super quickly through mass transit, and then it's also cheap too. It's $2.90. Obviously, it's subsidized with taxes, but it's also like $2.90 per ride. And I truly believe that I would not have been able to do what I do without a robust public transportation network, because driving, like drive centric cities, it just takes so much longer to get everywhere. You got to deal with traffic, and people aren't just like as densely located. So I would have clients like literally drive like half an hour away from me, and so it's just like so much of a far distance. I got to plan it more ahead of my schedule. Robust is obviously, if you've been to other countries like Asia, in Europe, then obviously our public transportation is kind of shitty compared to that. But at the same time, this is the best that we have in the country, and it works well most of the time. So yeah, just having it's just, I feel like it gives people a lot more opportunity, especially if you don't come from much, which I don't come from much, and then I'm sure like the majority of the people who live in the city don't be making enough money to freaking Uber everywhere, and so it allows people to get around cheaply, it allows people to get around conveniently and efficiently. And so I believe that is a huge part of my success, and then also a huge part of the way that the city is able to function the way it is, because if people can get around, they can access more opportunity, they can improve their social mobility, they can improve their socioeconomic backgrounds. And so I do think that public transportation is so key in just keeping the money flowing and allowing people, just giving people opportunity like that they might not have otherwise, because owning a car or even just leasing, it's such a high barrier to entry. Like, you got to pay for the car itself, you got to pay for gas, you got to pay for insurance, and just the cost adds up. So yeah, public transportation. And then the last thing here, obviously, got to address the elephant in the room. Obviously, the cost of living, which is a con, but I'll talk about the pro first because I'm going through my list of pros here. But the pro is that obviously I can charge more as a personal trainer in New York City compared to when I was like living in Portland. Definitely increase my rates because just to accommodate for like the cost of living, everything just more expensive here. But also because of that, I can charge more and make more money, right? So yeah, that was also another pro of just living in tier one city. Obviously, things are gonna cost more, like New York City, London, blah blah blah. Like compared to like the countryside or like smaller cities. So everything does cost more, but then also at the same time, people are sort of immune, or not immune. They're used to the prices already. They're not as price sensitive, and so you can charge more for things, and people will expect that it costs that much, and people are willing to pay that price as well. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for the pros. Now let's head into the cons. All right, so diving into the cons now. Now, obviously, based off the last point I made, so obviously New York City is a very expensive city, and so that's obviously I gotta get that out of the way. Like, number one, it's freaking expensive. Like, it's no joke. Like obviously here I'm renting a room out of like a bigger apartment, and so I have a couple roommates here, and it's not that bad. It's a pretty nice area, and cost me $17.50 per month, and that includes utilities and all that. And so it's in a pretty good area. I have elevator, laundry building, and yeah, then the building management is pretty fine too. So I decided that's why I've been here for over a year now, and I plan on staying longer until I can afford, and also I can find like a good deal on my own place as well, just so I can save some money on that and not spend a bunch of money on my own place. But yeah, like the average one bedroom studio, you're looking anywhere between $3,500 a month to like $4,500 a month, depending on the amenities that you want, the location, all that stuff factored in. So it's like, yeah, that's freaking crazy expensive. And obviously a lot of places require you to make 40 times the rent. So take the rent times 40, that should be your annual income that they expect you to make. And obviously groceries are more expensive here. What else? Eating out, restaurant, drinks, that kind of stuff are way more expensive. And so, yeah, but although it's like, it's not that you can't find a good deal, it's just harder. You just have to kind of go out of your way, go out to like further out into the boroughs. So yeah, obviously it's expensive. That's a big con, which definitely does shock a lot of people and put a lot of people off as to why they don't want to move here or come here. But I definitely think, I personally, I mean, obviously that, N of one sample size here, like I think it was worth it because sure, cost of living is higher, but also I am making a lot more than I did. So that kind of just, balances it out for me. So yeah, there's that first bullet point, and then secondly, again, a lot of people, which can be a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing. You go to a popular restaurant and expect to wait an hour or 2 hours because there's so many freaking people lining up, also wanting the same experience that you want, and rush hour on the subways. That's also not fun. You're packed in there like sardines, just a bunch of people, and you're walking about and just so many people out. And sometimes if you want to get, I want to say, like, if you are especially very much introverted, you need your alone time, you are easily overstimulated, then honestly New York City is not the city for you. Tier 1 cities are not the city for you. Like, you might be able to visit, but just moving here, like, it's gonna be very, very hard for you, especially if you just want to get away from people from time to time, which it works sometimes if I like just want to stay home. But for the most part, like, I enjoy just being around people. Even if I go to the park and I don't talk to anyone, I just like chill there. Like, I just love being around people, it just makes me feel like more secure and safe, just knowing that like there are like other eyes, there are other people out there. And I, in fact, like I just feel way more sketched out when there's like no one around, and like no one can hear anything. If anything happened to me, no one can hear or see me, right? So I actually like that, and then that's another reason why I chose New York City. So yeah, but yeah, sometimes it can get annoying, and obviously with the tons of people, you're exposed to a variety and spectrum of people. So like some people are obviously lower IQ and stupid and does some things that you're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, are you freaking stupid? So you're gonna get exposed to more people like that. But I do think that the benefits of meeting more like cool people and people who will help you like advance your life and career and yourself, etc., is gonna far outweigh the negatives to the city. So yeah, tons of people. Next one. So yeah, again, this is also tied to the high energy environment. So because you're always like on the grind, it's always about the hustle. It can sometimes I feel this way too, that you're just always you feels like you're always running on the hamster wheel and you can never catch a break. It feels like it's always on to the next thing, on to the next thing, and like sometimes it can be a bit much, and you sort of you forget to slow down and smell the flowers, right? And it's always about the hustle, always about the grind. And so it's just obviously it's healthy to find a nice balance of that. But yeah, sometimes it can be a bit much, and sometimes I find myself just like, oh man, I'm burnt out, so I need to chill out and slow down. So yeah, that's another con to the city, just because yeah, again, everyone's always hustling, which can be a good thing and can motivate you and keep you pushing. But sometimes all of us, we need a break and we need a reset. We need to just chill from time to time. So that's something that could slip out of your hands when you are busy in the hustle and grind yourself. Next thing here, so yeah, and then also yeah, to the same point about everything being old. So New York City is, and the U.S. quite frankly, is notorious for just not upkeeping a lot of their old infrastructure. So a lot of stuff is old here, which is cool. And if you like history, like I certainly like love these aspects of it. Just seeing stuff like the super old and super cool, like some pre-war buildings are like still up that people can live in. Like the subway stations are super old and they have that nice, classic antique tiles. The subway cars are super old as well, and a lot of the infrastructure in the city is still from like the 1800s and all that kind of stuff. But also at the same time, when you don't reinvest into your infrastructure and you don't try to restore it or renovate it, it gets a little bit old, gets a little grimy, and also gets a little bit run down, and sometimes it might sketch you out and all that. And so yeah. And what I have here, so yeah, everything's old, worn down, and built with the old mentality. So yeah, everything's like outdated. So a lot of stuff is like, so the the subway system that runs here is notoriously bad because everything's outdated. Like a lot of the subway cars are just so outdated they don't make the parts for it anymore, and so they have to find parts or make parts for it. A lot of the maintenance has been deferred for decades, and so sometimes you'll have random delays that you have delayed for an hour because the train door is like broken or something, or their signaling doesn't work and kind of stuff. So a lot of the stuff is like old and worn down, and I'll be honest, if sometimes you're like, man, is this subway tunnel gonna collapse on me? Like, it's very highly unlikely, but it's just a thought that you have. And then also, I think back in, I forget which year was it Hurricane? I forget the hurricane name, but I'll pull it up, like Hurricane whatever, like hit New York City, and then the bunch of the subway systems were flooded, and that was just like crazy. And then people were like questioning the infrastructure because you could see water just spewing and pouring between the cracks of the walls, and it's just like, yeah, that's kind of sketchy. Like, who knows how much worse that made the infrastructure. So yeah, so it's like that's also another con of it, where sometimes you might not know if something's going to happen, and then because things are just super old, and then you're stuck somewhere, or it causes a wreck in your schedule in your day or something like that. So that's another thing to be mindful of. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for my list of pros and cons in living in New York City as a personal trainer. Let me know if you also live here or have lived here, and drop in the comments maybe you have any pros and cons to add to that, or maybe you have any questions for me. Definitely let me know as well. Obviously I couldn't think of everything, but yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. yeah, nice chill sit down episode because I just don't have the mental energy to go around and freaking dick around in New York and record myself. But yeah, that's a sit down, and then we'll be back on the regular schedule next week, and then the following week I'm leaving for Brazil. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff that helps the channel out. Catch you next one, and peace out.